AATBirds Weekly Report is the Eagle news, notes, and analysis you need. All about the birds. It's all birds, all the time.
And welcome to the AATBirds Weekly Report. New intro.
I'm not gonna lie, Johnny. The new intro had me bopping over here.
See, exactly. You know, we had to switch it up. Can't have the same thing, and I was kind of getting sick and tired of the old one, and I had to change it up. And it shows kind of like a little intro at the end of all the co-hosts, so I had to switch it up there. But tonight, there isn't too much to go on. I don't want to do a mock draft or anything. Matt and I, we did that the last couple of weeks. Matt's going to be out this week as having baby number 3, I believe. Well, he's not having it. But he'll be back next week. We're going to do our mock draft as we usually do. Chip will be kind of the analyzer of what we're doing with the picks, how we're addressing the team needs, and everything. We did that the last couple of seasons.
Yeah,
we've done that, which I think they've worked out pretty well. So we're going to keep doing that.
Only because, again, I have the generic knowledge of these players, and, you guys present your cases for your deeply researched draft picks, and it just kind of works itself out.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to be doing that. I think that's basically what's going to consist of. Now, I'm thinking after the draft, I'm thinking maybe like Sunday night, we have a post-draft because I don't really want to wait till Wednesday because I'm thinking after the draft, you're probably going to have a couple free agent signings early in the week and stuff like that. So I'd like to get the draft data and everything that the Eagles did out of on the weekend. So we'll talk about doing that. We'll get that all out. But tonight I want to talk about something that I saw, and I texted you, Chip, about it. It's an Eagle all-time tier list. I happen to see it. I don't agree with some of it.
I don't agree with a lot of it.
I want to go over it with you.
It's funny because you mentioned that you don't agree with this. I saw something today, and it's not the tier list, that somebody thinks that it would be a great idea to trade Devontae Smith for Jalen Ramsey. Did you see that?
You know what? Funny. Maybe great minds think alike because I was going to bring that up because
stupid.
So what it is I think her name is Corey Leibowitz. That's a made up name. Stop. Like it's so made up. But it was a trade idea of Devontae Smith and pick number 32 going to Miami for Jalen Ramsey, pick 13 and a second round pick.
No.
Like
Devontae Smith is one of your captains from last year, and Jalen Ramsey can't stay on a field. No. And if you weren't going to pay Darius Slay, and you weren't going to pay C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and you weren't going to pay
$21 million,
you're not going to. No. Nope.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
The internet is sometimes full of stupid people.
Yeah. Not going to happen. So, excuse me. Getting over a little cold here, so may have a cough here and there. But yeah, that was a stupid trade idea. And again, you're going to start seeing some of this nonsense being thrown out because, Jalen Ramsey and the Dolphins are going to most likely part ways, which is funny because they just extended him last offseason. They gave him a big-time deal and all that. Miami doesn't know what they're doing down there, and I don't want any part of it. Like maybe Jalen Ramsey 3 years ago, I'd think about that, but as of right now, no. I'm not doing that. I'm putting my resources elsewhere. If I'm looking for a veteran, I'm looking for a veteran edge rusher. And that's where I would put my chips in. Now, I did yeah, right. I did post something about a TJ Watt. Now, that's kind of being discussed in terms of, him posting stuff on Instagram. I guess they're not really seeing eye to eye on a contract extension. TJ Watt is 30 years old. What really are the Steelers doing? The focal point of the Steelers defense is TJ Watt. They have a couple other pretty good pieces on each level of that defense. But the way I see it with that is there's a couple teams I could definitely see going after him. Buffalo Bills, Eagles, Seattle. Eagles, do they want to put those resources into a 30-year-old because he's going to want an extension? He only has 1 year left on his deal. What are you going to have to give up? So there's a lot in there.
And I think with that, you fall into the same, like, initially gut reaction, absolutely, it's TJ Watt. But then I think you kind of fall into the same logic that I just gave with Jalen Ramsey, which is if you weren't willing to re-sign some of these other players that you already had on your Super Bowl winning roster, why go out and, like do the same thing for players that you don't really know that well?
Yeah. Listen, if you can add an edge rusher like that to your roster, whether it's TJ Watt or whether Trey Hendrickson gets traded from the Bengals, I think you think about it. And of course, Eagles were always going to think about it. It's going to be interesting. The Eagles did sign a backup receiver, Terrence Marshall Jr., which is funny because I swore he was a lot older, only 24 years old.
Did he make the tier list? I just want to know.
I don't believe he did. You never know when it comes to the internet. But he's a 24-year-old. What does that say? Camp body. Maybe he turns into something. He could be a good number 4 receiver for you. I don't know. But again, sometimes in free agency, especially this stage of free agency, you throw darts and see if anything sticks. Again, you never know. So we're going to get to this tier list here. That's what I want to talk about. So let's get it going here and
let's tear it up.
Oh yes, let's tear it up. Okay. So as you can see here, so there is a plethora of tiers that you like that? We like that word?
I love that word.
So the way we look at it here, so looks like there's 6 tiers total. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's 6 tiers. Let me just double check.
It says 5 tiers.
Well, the 6th one's at the very bottom. So there's 6
Got it.
Total tiers, okay? So the first tier, and it's best players of all time. I'll start 6 to 1. So tier 6 is Maxie Baugh, Malcolm Jenkins, Trey Thomas, Bob Brown, Ron Jaworski, David Akers, Jerry Sizemore, Trent Cole, Bill Berge, Jim Ringo. Okay. To me, so if you look at it, you look at who are the Hall of Famers. Well, Jim Ringo's a Hall of Famer, and Bob Brown's a Hall of Famer.
And so that was going to be one of my initial questions about this tier list to begin with, which is, clearly it's all opinions. Like we can see that.
Yeah.
But what is the qualifications for this? Because you have a Hall of Famer in tier 6, and your top tier is 3 Hall of Famers and 1 presumptive Hall of Famer. So is it, if you're in the Hall of Fame, you should be in the top tier?
I think it has to do it's essentially like when I did the top 100 list, the way that I looked at it is the impact on the team, what they did. Like, even if they're like Bob Brown's a Hall of Famer, yeah, he played only, I think, 4 years in Philly, 4 or 5 years in Philly. Most of his time was with other franchises. So,
right.
He still was a really great all-pro player. Jim Ringo, same thing. Jim Ringo played only a couple seasons, I think 4 seasons with the Eagles. He's a Hall of Famer, but from another franchise. So I think that is the aspect of, yes, he's a very talented player and still was talented when he played with the Eagles, but made his name somewhere else. But he's still one of the top ones, but not the top one.
And it's definitely, as we continue to look at this, and, TJ checking in. What's up, dude? How you doing? Good to see you. As I look at this, I can't figure out any rhyme or reason to some of these picks and these selections. And, you've got, like we said, some Hall of Famers low. You've got some superstar players high. You've got players that played with each other nowhere near each other on this list. Like the biggest discrepancy to me is the Jerome Brown and Reggie White discrepancy.
Well, see,
that's
the
a
thing,
1 to 5 tier change.
Yeah, but you have to look at it too. Is Jerome Brown only had a short career? So
and the other thing that's going to come into play here, maybe actually not so much with this, maybe not so much with this specific tier listing, but recency bias. Like I remember when we did our top players of each position, the recency bias was real.
Yeah, listen, you're gonna have recency bias everywhere.
Okay, how about this? Wait, I'm already noticing another mistake.
Oh boy!
And I've looked over it now 3 times, and you tell me if I missed it. How are you going to have Trey Thomas on here, but no John Runyon?
That's pretty good, because the way that you look at it too is like it so you saying that, so if gentlemen, anybody who were fans of the Eagles back in the late 70s, early 80s, you have Jerry Sizemore there, where's Stan Walters? So it's the same concept of what you just brought up, except for it's just a different era. Jerry
Troy
Sizemore
Vincent is on here.
Walters were 1-2 right tackle, left tackle pairing for years.
Mm-hmm.
Trey Thomas and John Runyon were that too. That is one I
I
definitely
would argue, and I would look, and Trey's a friend of the show. I mean, I love me some Trey Thomas, but I would argue that Runyon, just due to his gargantuan battles with Michael Strahan his entire career, if you're going to only pick one of them, it's got to be Runyon.
Yeah, that's tough. To me, they come in a pair. Like that's just
agreed. Left tackle, right tackle.
Now, if we then jump up to tier 5, and as
there is a gargantuan mistake on tier 5.
So as you mentioned, Jerome Brown was in there. Clyde Simmons is right there too. Clyde Simmons and Reggie White played numerous years together. Clyde Simmons had so many sacks, like led the league in sacks. Like he was a pass rush specialist. So in tier 5, you have Clyde Simmons, you have Jalen Hurts, Wilbert Montgomery, Nick Foles, Zach Ertz, AJ Brown, Jerome Brown, and Al Wistert.
I have so many problems with this. And I'm going to start with every single quarterback that is on this list. So you want to put Nick Foles in tier 5 because he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
That's fine.
I can rock with that.
It doesn't bother me at all, because
I have no problem with that, because he won a Super Bowl and that's what he's known for. But Jalen Hurts has appeared in 2 Super Bowls, which is more than any other quarterback in Eagles history. So let's bump him up a little bit. He's won a Super Bowl, which exactly 2 quarterbacks have done. So let's bump him up a little bit. And he still has a very, very, very long playing career. So let's continue to bump him up. Randall Cunningham should not be all the way up there. He just shouldn't. He was a lot of fun to watch. He was electric. He shouldn't be up there. McNabb shouldn't be all the way up there. He has not won a Super Bowl. The greatest quarterback in Eagles history is now Jalen Hurts.
Listen, here, this is for me.
And if you're putting it on based on Super Bowls, why is Ron Jaworski not on this list at all?
He is. He's on tier 6. He's in the middle there.
Yep, caught him. You're right.
Like the Randall thing is a little high. Maybe tier 3. Donovan at tier 2.
I wouldn't even go that far.
I'm okay with at tier 2, because if you look at it, this is what it is. So tier 1 is the Eagles Mount Rushmore as of right now. To me, that's what it is. Bednarik, Reggie White, Dawkins, Kelsey. I know I'm jumping up and down, but that's essentially what this is for. Is the Mount Rushmore is what your tier 1 is. That's why there's only 4 of them. But getting back to tier 5 down there, I have no problem with Wilbert there. I get Clyde and Jerome. Maybe Clyde could bump up 1 tier. AJ should be up where LaShawn McCoy is. I'm sorry, LaShawn McCoy. Like, okay, he's one of your.
I think it's too early for AJ Brown to be all the way on this list so far.
Then just to me, I don't think so. Just because I think he's probably almost, if not the best receiver in Eagles history. for
I
what
mean,
he's done in his time.
he's going to end up as the best as the best receiver in Eagles history, but I don't have him there yet. He's only been here a couple of seasons. If anything, I put Deshaun Jackson where McCoy is. I put McCoy where Jackson is. I mean, I don't know if I think honestly AJ Brown right now is a tier 6 on his way up.
Yeah, I can see him. Even bump
Because
switch him with
how come you're not
Jackson.
going to put T.O. on here? Because T.O. had the single greatest season in Eagles history as a receiver.
Yeah.
What is your qualifying factor is my point. What is your qualifications to be on this list?
I think what you have to do is like the T.O. because it's only 2 seasons. Oh, a season and a half, actually. Not even 2 seasons. A season and a half. So I think that's a little tough. Now, even if you jump up to tier 4 here, Tommy McDonald, Seth Joyner, Norm Van Brocklin, Mike Quick, Troy Vincent, Pete Retzlaff, and Deshaun. Troy Vincent, yes, he was a really good corner. You know, the way I look at it too, you know, Asante had some good seasons with the Eagles too.
Yep.
So, and he's not on the
Darius
list.
Slay won a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Darius Slay had, you know, a hell of a career for the Eagles. So again, that's another tough one. Like Norm Van Brocklin, he only played 3 seasons in Philly, I believe, 58-60. Yes, he won a championship with them. He was an MVP with them. But maybe tier 5, like next to Foles. It's kind of like, to me, I wouldn't mind that. I don't know. I
mean,
think
look, it's tough for you and I because we we didn't see any of those guys play, so it's just kind of the lore that goes with them.
To me, I think the way we look at this tier list, like I could see the right players. They're just in the wrong areas.
I'm sorry, Jeremiah Trotters nowhere on this list.
All right, so for me,
Hugh Douglas is nowhere on this list.
Trent Cole's there. I know Hugh, Trent Cole, they were close in terms of sack numbers and stuff like that. Trotter, I agree with you with Trotter.
Trotter's got to be on this list.
What?
Trotter has to be on this list.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Who else?
So two noticeable misses right now. Noticeable are John Runyon and Jeremiah Trotter.
Yeah, those are 2.
Those are big, big misses.
I know. I'm not going to bring my top 100 Eagles up because I don't want to.
Here's another big miss. Where's Deuce Staley?
I don't think so.
I'm saying if you're going to put AJ Brown on there,
no.
Deuce Staley played as an Eagle longer. I think Deuce would be on this list.
But he didn't have that
available to be knocked out.
His career wasn't that impactful. You know, AJ Brown is a Pro Bowler, All-Pro, Super Bowl champ, like Eagles receiving record. Like there's nothing.
Concede the point. Got it. I like it.
I was going to say Brian Westbrook, but he is on tier 3, so at least he's in there. With Harold, Lane Johnson. See, Lane Johnson's too low.
Lane Johnson is too low, and if we're talking about bookmarks, right? Jordan Mailata has got to be on this list and climbing.
Maybe not yet. I know it's tough. Lane Johnson should be in tier 2. Swap him with Randall. That's what I would do. But Eric Allen in tier 3, Pete Pihos, and LaShawn McCoy. Again, I'm okay with that.
Eric Allen should be up a tier. Seth Joyner should be up a tier. You're talking about a guy who should be a Hall of Famer.
The way that it's so say this. So Seth Joyner up a tier, say Pete Pihos down to tier 4.
Sure.
But the thing is, if you move, let me see, Eric Allen up to tier 2, are you moving McNabb down?
Absolutely.
I think tier 3 is okay for right now.
I'm absolutely moving McNabb down because, again, until Foles won a Super Bowl, and then Jalen Hurts.
I have another one here for you.
Hold on, wait. And then Jalen Hurts has appeared in 2 Super Bowls and won one of them. McNabb was the greatest quarterback in the Eagles franchise history. He is not anymore.
Yeah, but I still think his career is decorated enough more than Randall.
Sure.
To be in
It was
that
a
tier
great,
too.
yes, I agree. It's in terms of tiering, Hurts, McNabb, Cunningham.
I have another one for you. Massive miss. Where's BG?
Oh, take Trent Cole right out, just create a spot for him. But again, yes, he needs to be on this list.
I'm just saying there's a massive miss
Was
right
somebody
there.
drunk when they made this?
Probably.
And if so, can they share?
SOG Football is who made it on IG. I'll give them credit because their graphic and
I
stuff.
wouldn't give them credit. This is awful.
So tier 2 is Steve Van Buren, Jason Peters, McNabb, Cunningham, Fletcher Cox. Cox is one of the best interior defensive linemen the Eagles have had.
I
Super Bowl
swapped
champ.
Lane Johnson and Jason Peters right off the bat.
See, I think the problem here, I think people think too much of 2019 and 2020 Jason Peters and not the elite, literally best offensive
Jason
tackle.
Peters was elite. There is no doubt. But then the injuries started piling up. And if this is a moving list, Lane Johnson's got to be higher.
Yeah, I listen, I understand that, but you have to look at what JP did. He was, for the Eagles, he was a 4-time All-Pro. He made the Pro Bowl. I think it was 7 times with the Eagles, all-decade team, Super Bowl champ. Like, I think he deserves to be up there. That's why I said that I would move JP would stay there. I'd move Lane up there and swap him with Randall. But Lane needs to be in tier 2.
I agree.
And the way you look at it, if somehow the Eagles go back to back and Lane has 3 Super Bowl trophies, he has and especially if the way he's playing and he plays that for a couple more seasons, there's talk that he could be on that Eagles Mount Rushmore. He'd be one of the most decorated Philadelphia Eagles of all time.
I would replace Reggie White.
I would not. You can't replace the best. Was the best defensive player, if all time, but I would think all time. I know people say Lawrence Taylor. I wouldn't say that. I'd say Reggie White. That's tough. Listen, Chuck Bednarik is an all-time Eagle. Reggie White, Brian Dawkins, Jason Kelsey. It's a tough list because those are, some of the best to ever put the pads
and
on.
here's the other thing, though. If Jalen Hurts wins another Super Bowl, he's got to be in contention for that top spot.
Listen, if he wins another Super Bowl and he plays, another 5 to 6 quality years, he's definitely going to be jumping because he's going to be breaking records. It's going to be interesting to see because the list will maneuver because when you look at some of these guys, Landon Dickerson, you look at Jordan Mailata, you look at Devontae Smith. How many more? If Saquon has another 2 to 3, 4 great seasons, where is he on the list?
If Saquon's got those kind of numbers, I mean,
like I understand the placement of some of these players. I just think they're basically a lot of them are in the wrong area, the wrong position, and there's some guys missing, as we mentioned. Think
some
about
big
PG.
misses.
There's some.
John Runyon is a colossal miss.
Yeah, John Runyon too. Yeah, you're right. Like there's big time misses when you look at some of the players who are big time contributors for the Philadelphia Eagles that are just not on this list. And they did it as a tiered list but it's just I had to bring it up just because it's just a fun idea to bring up.
Yeah,
but,
it's really cool until you do it stupidly.
Well,
and you do it lazily. That is a lazy list that I think overcompensates for recency bias. Like they were like, oh, we got to make sure we make a list that doesn't include too much recency bias.
Yeah, I just don't. I think there's a lot of misses in terms of where the placement was, and then essentially the massive misses of certain players that were left off. So,
I don't like it. Johnny, that was supposed to be a fun exercise and made me angry. I don't like it.
Well, I'm sorry.
0 stars.
So,
Don't recommend.
we're gonna end it here, but the way that we're going to end it is gonna trivia question for you.
Oh, son of a bitch.
I'm sorry, I have to do it.
I am in baseball mode. I could ask you a bunch of questions about baseball and baseball rulings.
Nah, I'd rather not. That's boring.
I know you wouldn't.
This isn't a baseball show. But Matt did message me and said baby number 3 is here, future Eagle. So congratulations to
Hey, congrats to Matt Templin and his
Matt
new baby.
Templin, co-host. Congratulations to him. So my other, basically what we got here, my question for you. All right. And then I have a fun fact I want to bring up. I don't know if you've ever heard it before. I do want to bring it up to you because I thought it's very interesting. But my trivia question for you. Now, I'm not going to make it super difficult. I'm going to make it pretty simple for you. I know you'll respect that because it's what you need to be nice and simple.
I told you, the problem is I'm locked into baseball mode right now.
I know.
Unfortunately, the Phillies are not, because as we were on our show, in the 26 minutes that we've been on the air, the Phillies absolutely crapped the bed.
Well, things like that does happen. But
is this what it feels like to be a Mariners fan?
Yeah. Every year. Believe me. So if we take a look at the Philadelphia Eagles and I give you a nice, easy trivia question because let's just say you need it. Okay. So the Eagles were in the Super Bowl.
True. I win.
Well, multiple times.
True again. I win again. 2 for 2.
In the Eagles' Super Bowl losses,
okay,
I need you to name me at least 4 players that scored touchdowns in the Super Bowl losses.
Okay, that you're not talking about each of them, right? Like if I don't spend a lot of time talking about the 1980 team, I'm okay.
Well, there's only 1 touchdown in the 1980, and I know you're not going to get that.
Okay.
But no, you had 4 total. So Super Bowl in 1980, Super Bowl 39, and Super Bowl 58. Right, 58?
Right,
no, 57.
So I want to say
57.
Jalen Hurts. Hurts got one.
Jalen Hurts is 1.
Okay. I want to say that T.O. got one.
You're going to have to dip into Super Bowl 39.
Yeah. I want to say that T.O. got one.
T.O. did not get one.
He did not score in that Super Bowl. Okay.
9 catches, 122 yards, no touchdown.
No touchdowns.
So the Eagles had 4 touchdowns in Super Bowl 57. 3 of them were by Jalen Hurts.
Did Alshon Jeffrey get a touchdown in that Super Bowl?
In the Super Bowl win, I'm talking about losses.
That's right. He wasn't on the team at that point. Okay.
So you got Jalen Hurts. There's 3 more that you have to go for.
Did McNabb run one in?
No.
So
McNabb threw 3 touchdown passes.
Okay.
So he had 3 touchdown passes. There was 1 touchdown in Super Bowl in 1980. So that's 4. And then there was there's 4 touchdowns in Super Bowl 57, but only 2 different people scored. So in total, there's only 6. You have to give me 4 out of the 6.
And I got Jalen Hurts already.
You got Jalen Hurts, who had 3 in Super Bowl 57.
Okay. So Westbrook would have been on that team. Right? No, Westbrook wasn't on that team.
Westbrook was in Super Bowl 39. He did score.
Yeah. Okay, so there you go.
Hurts and Westbrook. Yeah, 2 more.
Okay. He threw a bunch, which means he had to throw to his crappy receivers, but he also had really good tight ends. Did Selleck get one?
Selleck was not on any Super Bowl losing teams.
Okay. Who were McNabb's crappy receivers? I'm like thinking like Torrance Small and James Thrash. Like I'm going deep into the realm of awful receivers here. Torrance Small.
No, Torrance Small only played with them 2000 and 2001.
James Thrash.
James Thrash was not on the team in 2004.
Kevin Curtis.
Kevin Curtis was not on the team yet.
Okay. I'm literally just digging deep into some of the awful receivers that we've had.
I know.
Did Ertz get any?
In the Super Bowl win, not in the Super Bowl loss.
Win, that's right. Okay, he was already off the team by then. Give me some of the other ones. I got two.
All right, so AJ Brown.
See, I was in the crappy receiver mode, not the good receiver mode.
I know. Well, you missed AJ Brown. Now the other 1980 man was Keith Kreftley. He scored in 1980, the only touchdown for the Eagles there. L.J. Smith.
L.J. Smith.
And Greg Lewis.
Again, crappy receivers.
Yes. Now, before we end it here, I do want to bring up this because it's pretty interesting, actually. So, Burt Bell, of course, owned the Eagles, and he had essentially he had the Steelers as well with the Rooneys. So in 1940, basically what they did was Alexis Thompson was it all started with in 1940, Bell intervened to stop the sale of Art Rooney's Steelers to Alexis Thompson. So Art Rooney needed money. The Steelers weren't very good to sell to Alexis Thompson. And then Rooney then acquired half of Bell's interest in the Eagles. So Art Rooney actually owned the Eagles, half of the interest with the Eagles. In a series of events known as the Pennsylvania Polka, Rooney and Bell exchanged. So Rooney and Bell had owned the Eagles. And then Alexis Thompson owned the Steelers because he bought them from Art Rooney. So Rooney and Bell exchanged their entire Eagles roster and their territorial rights in Philadelphia to Thompson for his entire Steelers roster and his rights in Pittsburgh. So then Rooney would then so Bell became the head coach, and then Rooney became the general manager, and then all of a sudden Rooney would then be able to buy the team back from Bell, once he got enough money and everything. But essentially the Eagles are the Steelers, and the Steelers are the Eagles. It's interesting. It's something I heard, and I was like, that's really, really weird. So I looked, and that was the case. So essentially the Eagles roster and the Philadelphia rights were given over to Alexis Thompson, who owned the Steelers, and they just essentially just traded teams because Alexis Thompson wanted to be closer to where he was from because he wanted to make trips and stuff home. So I think he lived in the Massachusetts area, but I just thought it was very interesting.
So this brings us to our next point. It's really tough to do shows in the off season.
It is very tough, but it's fun. See, this was a tough show because the draft is next week. So we could have always did a mock draft and stuff or talked about mock drafts, but we're doing it next week. And then of course on probably Sunday night or whatever, the weekend at night, we're going to talk about the draft and who the Eagles drafted and everything like that. And then on Wednesday, most likely you'll have undrafted free agent, potential some free agent signings, and kind of go from there. And then of course you have the schedule release. So there's stuff happening. but it isn't ever flowing, if you want to say. So got to come up with some ideas. We'll come up with some more, but yeah, that's why the shows can be a little shorter, just because there isn't enough content, but
I like it. Solidly done, sir.
Yes. Okay. So with that, as we always, end the show with 2 very special words. Go Birds.
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, a.k.a. Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.